and welcome to the latest episode of Real Voices of Happy Valley with Viv and Dave Boardman. In this episode, Dave talks to Pip Fowler, frontman of the Sentimentalists. As a sentimental Scouser myself, I'm drawn to the name and to Pip, who's a talented, interesting bloke. He talks about the project he's involved with, Music for the Many, a wonderful local initiative to get children and young people engaged in music, which is no longer free in schools. And this organisation helps to put that right. Amazing.
Rings on my fingers, one for my wife, the others for my children.
That's a little snippet of music from the Sentimentalists, Pip Fowler's band. More of that after I've had a chat with Pip in his living room. So I'm sitting on a lovely couch with Pip Fowler, a musician who I've come across several times, booked you once or twice, I think, Lunchtime Live in Hebden Bridge.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Yes. Now, you're with the Sentimentalists.
That's right, yeah. That's the band, Sentimentalists. Quite long term now, it's over 10 years. And it's very sporadic because the musicianship in it, me aside, I'm the singer and songwriter. But the musicians that are in it are like absolutely top-class musicians, and that's the thing about songwriting is it does attract musicians. Mm-hmm. But they're busy doing other things as well, so it's very rare that we get any time to do much.
So we're all in different bands or with different things going on?
Or doing, yeah. Daniel Bath, who I will get a chance to talk about in relation to Music for the Many during this. He was there right at the outset, but he's incredibly busy. He's who was he? Gregory Porter, I think, that went down to London. Again, we'll come to that as Music for the Many thing. With Gregory Porter, so he's incredibly busy. The drummer, John Shepherd, lives in Leeds, so there's that distance. Mm-hmm. He's Grammy nominated, so the quality of musicianship is really high.
And the better the musician, the more in demand everyone is, individually as well.
Exactly that.
Yes. Yeah. Right. So have you, while we're on the Sentimentalists, have you got any gigs coming up? Have you doing much at the moment?
Yes. Leeds way. Mm-hmm. That's all I can remember. We've got actually, and that might not be till next year. To make my musical life easier, I've started a 3-piece band called Coal Dust. Still uses Daniel Bath, my favourite piano player, but also my favourite guitar player who lives in the valley, Joachim Lund. He plays guitar. And I've been wanting for like a couple of years to try and get Joachim and Daniel together, in the hope that the chemistry musically would really work. But just because they're both brilliant doesn't mean that they play well together, because that's not the way music works, is it?
Yeah.
But they do. They play absolutely beautiful. So I know that we've got something in Colne. There's Coal Dust coming up, I think, week after next. But nothing I can...
But it's the old, and I'm not comparing you with, but it's the old Crosby, Stills and Nash thing. Few guys meet and you really don't know if it's going to work until you start playing.
Yeah, that's right. You just don't, do you? Because you can have the best musicians in the world, but if it doesn't gel, then you just don't have that spark, does it? Oh, you can have people who are regarded as not great musicians, but if it works magnificently.
Absolutely, because as a former promoter and and booking agent for bands, I understand it's the show that matters. Are the people entertained? And you can get fantastic musicians who are not necessarily entertaining when they get together.
And Viv has said a few times, particularly about jazz, I think they're entertaining themselves, aren't they? Which can be a danger. I love lots and lots of different types of jazz, so I'm certainly not having a go at anybody. But it's quite interesting that, again, it's evolution, isn't it? It's moving on with your music.
It absolutely is, yeah. And you want to keep moving. You hope that you want to keep moving on with it. Mm-hmm. I don't know how realistic that is when you think of, who actually, even, if you look at, musicians who are famous or successful, even if they try to move on, they quite often get dragged back because that's where the popularity is, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I know a lot of people, lots of musicians who do actually make a decent living out of playing other people's music on cruise ships and in a tribute band and things. Yeah, I'd rather do their own stuff. But, if you're a professional, you have to make a living as well.
That's the point of it, isn't it? Is that,
and that's where a lot of the sort of people get together and sort of, nobody's going to pay us to do what we're doing now. They want to pay us for the hits we had 30 or 40 years ago. Which is a terrible shame for a musician.
Well, very, very briefly, we had a double bass player. And we've had some, when I think back to the amazing players we've had, bass players in particular, but there was one, and he lived locally at the time, and it was so exciting whenever I got to play with him. Him and Daniel played together, and John on drums, but he was primarily a jazz player, because if you double bass, that's where your gig is. And he had a young family, and he just used to have to say, look, if I can get 50 quid, I'm going to go do that gig. So we never, we just never got enough time together to create much. But that's the reality of it,
Yes, I did work for a while with a bass player, I think he's from Leeds, called Dave Bowie. And I was guilty of telling people that Dave Bowie was coming to the Trades Club. He was the stand-up bass player with a couple of jazz bands. As he said, well, I had that name before anyone became famous with that name, so I'm not changing mine.
And was he born with it?
Yes, it was his name. Yes, because the David Bowie we all know and largely love was called Jones when he started off.
And had to change it because of the Monkeys, dude. Yeah.
That's right, yes. That's right. Yeah. Anyway, but you go out and perform as a solo as well?
I do, because what I realised was that I was working with professional musicians who that's what they'd spent their life doing, and I hadn't. Mm-hmm. I was just writing songs. I was blessed to meet Daniel. We became close friends, and then he was kind enough to have a look at my songs I'd written, and he did get quite pulled in. He must have done, because 12, 13 years later, he's still here, still doing it. I think he did it as an act of charity to begin with, but again, it's that...
He wouldn't have done it for 13 years if he wasn't at least a bit impressed.
I think that's right. I think he's drawn in because if you're a musician, being able to put your imprint on something that is original, I think is probably the draw.
Yeah.
For professional musicians. So I never intended to sing, but in the process of saying, okay, well, Daniel put a band together. Mm-hmm. So, I've got some friends I think be interested in these songs. So I had to sing them to say, well, this is how they go, and then let's look for a singer. But we never did, and I stuck with it. And actually, I really like my voice.
I agree with you on that one. I really like your voice too.
But it was a shock, It's like, I can do this. I was listening to some old rehearsal tapes from 2015, tapes on my phone. And I thought, no, that's all right. That sounds good. Yeah. Even, 8 years ago. Yeah. So it's kind of accidental, because for me it's all about the songs. But I realised that I needed to catch up. I had no miles on the clock. And they've got their lifetime doing it. So I thought, well, I'll just go out with my musical instrument, whatever, play 2 or 3 different ones. And as horrific as it is, I'm just going to go to whatever open mic I can find. and just to practice the songs, get on top of the songs, build my confidence. And I love it so much now that every time I get, I'll just go out as many times as I can, find an open mic, sing some songs.
So where are the open mics you play at?
Well, there's some local ones that I play at occasionally. The thing is, I don't like repeating songs. I don't like going to venues and doing a song I'd done a few weeks earlier. But Trades Club, of course, have one once every month. Sarah's Corney.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
It's fantastic. She's fantastic. So I always try to do that. The Golden Lion occasionally, because that's a great venue. Is the Golden Lion, but the open mic is like it's wild. So sometimes you don't feel, I'm not quite up to that tonight. But
yes, I mean some open mics are very much, this is the kind of thing we do.
Yeah.
It's a bit more anarchic. Everything about the Golden Lion's a bit more anarchic, isn't it?
We love it so
Absolutely.
much. But why? Sometimes you think, I know, I'll stay in tonight.
I know, I went to the Wednesday night quiz once. I had no idea what was going on at any point. Yeah. But everyone's enjoying it. So fair play to them.
Exactly that. Yeah. But I prefer going to cities, to be honest. It's a younger crowd. I don't know. Cities just have got that. I don't know. I presume because cities are where universities are, you're more likely to get a younger, more experimental thing going. So I really like going to Leeds. I really like going to Manchester open mics. I went to Texas a few weeks ago.
Oh, yes.
Just took a musical instrument and just tried to find as many open mics as I could. And that was terrific, playing in Texas.
Oh, that must have been quite an experience.
Yeah, terrific, yeah. Bake Up. I love getting out of this valley, going into an even weirder valley.
Well, maybe we should do podcasts from Bake Up.
Yeah. And doing it there.
But Bake Up's sort of geographically hidden away from the rest of the world.
I think it's as simple as it doesn't have a train station.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't differ massively from the valleys that are around here, but it does seem to be. I don't know. Is it deeper or something? Because that hill to get there is quite a schlep, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Sharneyford there. But I love going and playing in Bake Up. And they've got some good venues as well.
Oh, right. Because it is amazing. The valley here, it's got an amazing music scene.
Yeah.
And it overflows. I mean, to be honest, we don't want to be xenophobic about other parts of the world because, lots of valleys in mid Wales have fantastic music scenes as well.
Oh, is that right?
Oh yeah, there's lots and lots of places, and I often think the heart of the growing or developing, music scene is in small towns and valleys. The big cities, I mean, that's where you get the bigger bands, the bigger scenes, and more influenced from national, international, American-style music and things like that. Music for the many.
Yeah.
Now, I'm relatively new to Music for the Many, so please tell me about it.
So Music for the Many, well, in a sense, this takes us back into the different people in different communities and different levels of society, their access to music. And Music for the Many, what we've done, so the logistics first. So it was set up by the wonderful Daniel Bath 5 or 6 years ago now. He asked me to be a trustee, so I'm chair of Music for the Many. And what Daniel identified is that in education, we were getting increasingly harder to access music lessons. The government decided they weren't going to pay for them anymore, but they didn't want to look too cruel and cut them all together. So they made it you could have music lessons at school, but you had to pay for them. So that excludes a whole bunch of society
Absolutely.
from taking part in that. So the idea behind Music for the Many is we raise funds and we gather musical instruments. You see the big double bass there? That's a donation.
Yes. That's lived a life, that. It's quite a battered machine,
That
isn't
has
it?
lived a life, that has. So that's going to be have a bit of work done on it when somebody comes to pick it up. So we get donations. The critical thing is raising funds, because what's important to us is that it's professional music tuition. So we pay a really good rate to musicians. And that's where the money goes, really, because we do it all through schools, the local schools. So this is based in Todmorden. So we're now in, I think, 4 schools in Todmorden. And the success of it has absolutely blown us away. Our pupils have been consistent in, and over the few years, and now they're taking it to the high school with them and beyond that. So, yeah, it's making sure that anybody who wants it can have real top quality music tuition and an instrument to take home with them and play. And we're very mindful of the cultural diversity that there is around here. So it's great that we're not restrictive about what people can play. If people want to play a particular instrument, we'll try and make sure, get them one of those instruments. But increasingly, we're slightly going through a period now of movement where we've realised that the best thing that we can offer is more orchestra or choir-led. So we're making sure that kids are working together as well. And we think the learning is greater then. So they're not just learning a musical instrument, they're also learning how to operate in a creative
No, that's
environment.
right, because you can be a solo musician, but when you can do it with others, you can collaborate with others, whether it's with songwriting or I know 3 chords on the guitar and you've got a bass, or what there's something you can hit with a stick. It becomes much more of a sort of a musical entity. And you turn it into a collaborative thing, whether it's a duo or a full orchestra.
Yeah.
It's great. And one of the great things when we moved to Hebden Bridge 25 years ago is the Hebden Bridge Junior Brass Band. I was never a big fan of brass bands before, but the great thing about them was that so many young kids got to learn music, whether they were playing a trumpet or whatever it was. I mean, lots of them went on to create ska bands, for example. Because they got that musical grounding from the people running the junior brass band. It's a fantastic thing for the confidence of them as well, as you said.
The value of it is enormous. Just socialising, listening, just improving people's ability to listen or habitual listening is a great thing, So... hats off to Daniel. He's done a great thing for the local area.
Absolutely, and it's great bringing people together. We used to have in Hebden Bridge for a few years a thing called World on Your Doorstep. It was based on the fact that within 20 miles or so of the valley. You've got people who's either themselves or their parents or grandparents are from every part of the world. And they've brought their culture with them. They come and play, and they play together. And the variety of music is fantastic. One of my favourites and also saddest moments is I had to, we'd hit our sort of curfew. I had to bring this jam session to an end. And it was a guy there with a sitar I'd invited in from Bradford. And he said, I'm really nervous. I've never played in front of white people before. And at the end of it, he said, that was fantastic, because who he was jamming with was, he brought his friend the tabla player because he didn't want to turn up on his own.
Yeah.
There was a 3-piece blues band. Around the back of them were percussionists, some from migrants from Zimbabwe, a couple of local guys whose heritage was from the Caribbean, all playing together, and someone on the bagpipes. And this Abid said to me, he said, it was fantastic. I played with traditional Scottish musicians, and I didn't know Scotland had traditional music. That kind of learning thing was just brilliant. The sound was fantastic.
I bet
too.
it was, because you've got the drone and the bagpipes, haven't you? Underpinning that then.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be magical.
It was absolutely terrible. And I had to try and keep it to the curfew so we could get the license to do it again next year. Because I was thinking, why hadn't you started this 2 hours ago? Yeah. But anyway.
But that's what the Valley, I think, is exceptional. It is the community aspect of music.
Yeah.
It's so rich, it's so varied, and there's so many things going on.
Absolutely.
And it's still great that the brass bands are still going on.
Oh, yes.
I do love a bit of brass band. I'm not so keen on marches.
Yeah.
But, when the marching songs they do, but brass is gorgeous.
Yeah. I did get to like brass band music. Actually, I was working at a jazz festival in Clitheroe a couple of years ago. Probably longer than that. Before the pandemic thing, so probably about 5 years ago. And there was a brass band on called the Hackney Colliery Band.
Wow.
Now, I doubt very much if Hackney has a colliery or has ever had one. But they had all the traditional brass band instruments, and they were playing rock classics, like Nirvana songs. You can do so much with music, and it's a joy to live in a valley where there's so much going on.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for that, Pip. That's really interesting. I am looking forward to the next Music for Many gig that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And even though I don't play any musical instruments, that's really why.
Well, it's great to talk about music and to listen to people talking about music, but we'd like to hear the music itself. And here is Pip and his band, the Sentimentalists, and 6 Rings on My Fingers.
6 rings on my fingers, one for my wife, the others for my children. It's a wonderful life. I hope that they'll stay, I hope that they don't hate me. Rings on my fingers is all that they'll have when I die. That and a perfect example of how not to live life. Every time I go to sleep, I dream of losing them. When I finally find them, they don't know who I am. 6 rings on my fingers will be yours when I go. Wear it round your neck on a string or on a finger or 4. 6 rings on my fingers, that's me at my happiest. Not happy like you, but happy for a sentimental you find them. They don't know who I am. 6 rings on my fingers, one for my wife, the others for my children. It's a wonderful life. I hope they'll let me stay if I don't get in their way.